Lesson 11, Tearing It Up, Angle Sums in Triangles. In this lesson, we'll find that if you know two of the angle measures in a triangle, you can find the third angle measure. In our last lesson, we focused on congruent angles that we might find in parallel lines. Today, we're going to look at angles again, but we're going to get some facts about angles that relate to triangles. So if you missed class today, you missed a fun activity. I'm just going to summarize it as quickly as I can here. But students were all given some triangles, like the ones that you see here. They didn't have any color coding on theirs, but they had to go around the room and find somebody or find two other people that had triangles congruent to theirs. They could use tracing paper, or just try to match things up or guess. But all the triangles that were congruent had one angle measure that was revealed. For example, in this triangle, we know that this angle was 90 degrees. In this triangle, which is a congruent triangle, we know that this angle is 40 degrees. And in this triangle, we're given the third angle measure. It's a little upside down there, but that's 50 degrees. And all three of these triangles were congruent. So all three of them really must have the same degree measures. The corresponding angles would have the same degree measures. So this angle would be 40 degrees. And this angle would be 50 degrees. So all of the triangles were the same. Once you found the set of three that were all congruent to each other, one of the three angle measures was given. And once you met up with your partner, you were asked to add up all of those angle measures that you saw. In other words, add up 90 plus 40 plus 50, or 20 plus 120 plus 40. Now, I'm going to move some things over here. All my pink triangles I recorded on this pink line. So I had 90 degrees, 40 degrees, and 50 degrees. I think you can see it here. And I did the same with each set of three congruent triangles. I wrote down their three angle measures from what was recorded here. Let me scooch these over. And the point of doing all of this is to look at what they add up to. And what we found was if we add 90 plus 40 plus 50, we wind up with 180 degrees. If we add 20 plus 120, that's 140, plus another 40, oh my gosh, it's 180 degrees again. And the same is going to continue to happen. 60 plus 40 is 100. 100 plus 80 is 180. Let's do it two more times just to really drive it home. I see 50 plus 50 is 100, and 100 plus 80 is 180. And finally, 140 plus 20 is 160, and 160 plus 20 is 180. And it turns out that it doesn't matter how big or small a triangle is. The three angle measures in that triangle will add up to 180 degrees. Now we looked at this another way as well with a second activity. And in this second activity, students were invited to grab a sheet of paper, draw any triangle that they wanted using a straight edge and some neatness, and then tear the triangle up. Tear all of the angle measures out. So I'm going to do that now. Tear that corner off, that vertex, tearing that vertex off, and then the third one. Okay, so I'm interested in these three angles. I'm going to get rid of the middle. And what you were asked to do, or what students were asked to do, is put all three vertices together. And see what happened. Well, if they did it neatly enough, let's see if I can make this super, super neat. Hopefully it doesn't wiggle around too much. But if I put all three of those angles together from that original triangle, let me see if I can get a straight line that's not transparent here. What happens is they'll form a straight line on the bottom. In other words, all three of these angles are going to add up to a 180-degree combination, just like we found in the other activity, just in a different way. So if you were to take a triangle and rip off all of the vertices and put all those corners together, you'd wind up with 180 degrees in a different way this time. Let's go to page 48 in your notebook and round up some of these important details. What we were hoping to get from these two activities was knowing that if you know two of the angle measures in a triangle, you can find the third angle measure. We actually used what was called a straight angle today. A 180-degree angle is called a straight angle because when it's made with two rays, the two rays point in different directions and they form a line. So maybe you can see those two rays that both start at this point here. And when they're put together, they make up a straight line or 180 degrees. And we found that if we experiment with the angles in a triangle, we find that the sum of all three angle measures in a triangle also forms a line. In other words, just so we know, the angles in a triangle should add up to 180 degrees. Let's move down just a little bit. I'm going to erase. So just to make sure we're clear, let's return to that activity, that second activity, where the idea was that you could tear up any triangle and put the three angles together, and it would form that straight angle, that 180 degrees. So I'm just going to look at what happened with this triangle and try and match it up with the angles that I see down here. Well, this little angle looks to be the smallest. I bet that's this one right here. This looks like a right angle. I'm going to mark it with two little arcs here. I bet that's this one right here. And that just leaves the third one over here that's about the size of pie that I like to have. There's our third one. And when we put all three of those together, it comes out to be 180 degrees. Straight line, 180 degrees. And the way we can show how we can find the missing angle measure in this triangle, well, I know that all three of them should add up to 180 degrees. Now, I don't know what the measure of this one is. I'm just going to call it X for right now. But I know that if I add 23 and 45, the third thing that I add has to get it up to 180 degrees. So if I add the two known measures together, that gives me 68 plus something is equal to 180. So to find that something, I can just subtract 68 from 180. So that missing angle measure must be equal to, let's see, 180 minus 60 would be 120, and another 8 would be 112 degrees. So how can you use the measures of two angles in a triangle to find the measure of the third? You can add the two you know. And subtract from 180. Let's see if I can squeeze this in here. So in your homework tonight, you might be given some angle measures and asked, can these be a triangle? Well, if they add up to 180, yes, they can. So in this lesson, we found that if we know two of the angle measures